Thank you for coming back for another episode, one of the rare combo episodes. We're going to get into both tight ends and defense in this one episode. Getting everything done early this week. I mean, there is news to still monitor quite a bit, but I think with what I have here available, there's only a little bit that you have to literally worry about and have to pay attention to. So, I'm your boy Grady A Fantasy. Welcome to the tight end and defensive portion of the show for week 10. So, now let's get right into it. So we'll start with the tight ends. Obviously, now, as usual, I like the player. Two young studs that have come into the league recently, McBride, Bowers. Bowers is not on the slate. But the thing that makes me worry about Trey McBride, and am I in a area to get decent, reception? Let's see. The thing about Trey McBride is the fact that, man, it's just that the touchdown upside has always been lackluster. But with Jacoby Brissett, that has totally changed. It's one of the few times that I actually recommend Trey McBride. The man basically has 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games, I think he had 2 in the first 6. So Trey McBride against Seattle. It's a tough matchup on the road, but they're a tougher run defense than pass defense. So, and the way Brissett has been playing, I think it's time to start believing in that offense again. And they have already named Brissett the starter, so McBride is definitely worth the pay up. Like I said, tight end has been a bit finicky, but it hasn't been, like I said, long are the days of, and I'll say it again, long are the days of Kelsey 8,000, 82, 85, Mark Andrews a few hundred after that, and then there's just a big, there were plenty slates where it was just those two up there, and then after Andrews, you'll get somewhere between a median of 5 to 7 to almost $1,000 cheaper to the next tight end. Maybe you'll have Goddard coming off a hot week, 800 cheaper, but 7,000 to 72 has been the pay up threshold for tight end. So tight end has been pretty finicky. But here's the other thing, too. If it has been that way, that normally means either a very good tight end is off the slate, or normally, once they get to that 7,072, they start to decline and get back into that 6,000, 65, 63 range. But the big asterisk here, McBride seemingly has been getting better quarterback play in the last 2.5 weeks. So let's see if he continues that. Sam Laporta, like I said, every Detroit player, even on the road at Washington, is in for a bounce back. I believe in all of them. I will have pieces of them again. I firmly believe in Detroit this week without a doubt. No issue there. Kittle is always an option. Even though that is a strong Los Angeles Rams defense, I think hopefully if Purdy plays, that's one of the key things. Like I said, Purdy plays, I'm more, in fact, to get to Kittle because they're probably going to need the weapons out there. Probably another week of Pearsall and that knee injury, probably going to be out. Mark Andrews at even 6,000 right under Kittle. Like I said, Baltimore has been playing better. That can sneakily be the highest game of the week. I think it can be the highest game of the week. But obviously McCarthy has to hold up his end because the Baltimore Ravens, after the bye week, have pretty much been, they just been getting better. They got their star player back, so a lot of confidence. You have Lamar to help extend drives, keep the defense fresher. With the defense has been getting better. I think all part of that is an option. AJ Barner has been part of some very stellar weeks the last couple weeks after basically being a group no-show with the bounty of players that they have. I think this is still just a reaction. Like, he had 1 week where he got 7 and 7 targets, but he's getting 3 and 4. It is a good matchup fantasy rank wise, but AJ Barner at almost 6,000 just seems too expensive to me. I'm sorry, it just seems too expensive. 55 and under, yes. Low fives, yes. It just seems too expensive, but I guess it's worth the risk. But I'll probably stay away because I actually like for 100 and in a better matchup against a worse defense, I like Theo Johnson. He's definitely the favorite target for Jackson Dart. So automatically, I'm already finding somebody $100 cheaper, and I think has a higher ceiling. Because AJ Barner definitely, for almost 6,000, can easily give you easily give you a 5 or a 6. Literally give you a point per 1,000. So I'm not really getting on the AJ Barner train. Theo Johnson is definitely one of my favorites. Hockenson is worth a mention. Colston Loveland, that's a false price because now Colston Loveland is somebody that you go to at 56. Had a great game, but if Cole Kmet if Cole Kmet recovers from concussion protocol, then Cole Kmet will be my favorite 4,800 pay down, basically punt tight end against the Giants. Because if Cole Kmet is there, then Colston Loveland at 56 is pretty much unplayable. He's not going to do the same thing that he did against Cincinnati last week, but I really feel that Loveland is a backup tight end to Cole Kmet. It's an opportunistic position because it has to be it literally has to be the right matchup, and I think against the Giants, you can get that. Juwan Johnson, that's my boy from the beginning of the season. With Tyler Shuck on the center, he's still seeing a bit of targets. Might see a little bit more with now Raheem Shaheed. Now, of course, like I said, I went over the wide receivers in the other show, and it's time for Brandon Cooks and maybe some other people to get called up. But I don't know. Against Carolina, it's still a good matchup, but the Carolina defense has been playing well, and then at home. But like I said, once again, I don't think you should fear Carolina. It's not a juggernaut. But they have had their weeks where they step up, but he's still a safety target. So I definitely like Juwan. One of my favorite paydowns this week, once again, selling out against the run, New England. I love Otten. Otten has the times that I recommended Otten when the injuries literally just started piling up. He didn't do much for us. But now you're going to have Otten last couple weeks at 5, 9, and 6 targets. When I was recommending him, he was barely getting the 5, staying at 4 and 3. So Cade Otten is looking like a part of the offense, and that's an excellent matchup for them. Like I said, New England sells out against the run. Cade Otten can slip out. It's a matchup similarly to what Loveland and Kmet were looking at against Cincinnati. Basically, the bottom part, or bottom rankings, bottom 4, bottom 3 in the league. So that's why I love Cade Otten. Hunter Henry on the upper side of the game is also an option. The way he dumps off and as many checks downs as he does, it's official. I would just say toss a coin between Fanning and Njoku. You save 200 between both. But if we get the stats to load here, possibly, then what you're looking at here is basically the fact that 8, 5, 10 in the last 3 weeks. And then when we look at Njoku, 5, 6, 9, it's basically almost an even split. So it's one of those where you have 2 people at the same position. This is not this is not the same as a wide receiver to the left versus wide receiver to the right. Might have the difference of a weaker cornerback or 2, or the slot where you're going to get different matchups. No, these are 2 guys playing the same position, and because of the way their quarterback plays, they're both viable. So this is literally David Njoku, Harold Fanning, both cheap pay downs. Flip a coin, or it's one of those, hey, if you can fit them in, like how you try to fit in the defense, if you still haven't filled in the tight end position and you have 5,200, you put in Fanning. You got a little less than that, put in Njoku. As usual, Zach Ertz is still an option because he does get volume targets from Mariota. So 5,100 at home is also an option. Dalton Schultz. The chalk of Dalton Schultz, I'm glad I avoided that last week. Now, this is the way better matchup against Jacksonville. Basically right next to the Bengals as the worst teams to go against the defense. To go against the tight end. Safeties and the linebackers are not good at covering, so I might take an option at that. But once again, now with CJ Stroud out, now you got Davis Mills. Does Davis Mills have a history with Schultz? Yes, but once again, Davis Mills will spread to everybody. But let's just put it like this. Let's just give you a flat number. 33 attempts. In 33 attempts, I guarantee almost half of those 33 attempts are going to go towards Nico Collins. So after 15 goes to Nico because that's the way he played when he started this. When obviously Nico wasn't, he was still talented, but he wasn't the beast he is now the last 2 years. But when Davis Mills started, that's the kind of target share he was kind of getting to Nico, and he'll get it to everybody else. So out of 15, you have to split up the other 18 amongst a talented wideout like Christian Kirk, maybe one of the other talented young guys like Hutchinson, Jalen Noel, and then it's him. So the only reason what entices me about Dalton Schultz is the fact that it's such he has the best matchup against the worst tight end coverage on this slate because Cincinnati's on bye. That's the only thing. I would feel more comfortable if it was Stroud at the helm, but let's see. Davis Mills can get there. I totally faded. Well, not totally faded. Like I said, I got the Schultz once because I like other tight end pay downs. I will still get to more Otten, Ertz, Howard Fannin, and maybe Njoku over Schultz, but I can't fade him. Like I said, playing in the 20 max, I'll probably get to him 3 times. Like I said, it is a matchup that you can exploit. And after that, you're looking at some... Yeah, like I said, my favorite... If he gets cleared, I'm going right back to Cole Kmet. It's not the best matchup, but it's still a game with 2 bad defenses. And like I said, I like the opportunity there for Kmet. Other than that, no, there's absolutely nothing here. There's nothing here that I like. No. I mean, I guess. And like I said, it's a punt. But to me, this is a dart punt. Obviously, Tremble is healthy, but you do have Jatavion Sanders for 4,700. It is against New Orleans at home. I guess I could throw that out there, but I don't think this week is necessary to go to a $4,700. I don't think it's necessary to go to a $4,700 or even a $4,500 Tommy Tremble. Because like I said, that's not a good defense either. And once again, I've proved many times before with my own advice, own research, New Orleans is something that you respect and feel more comfortable picking their defense at home. So honestly, I mean, you could pay down. I think you could stop at 48. Yeah, if he gets cleared, you could get to 48 Kmet. And then after that, it's really all about the 5,000. It's 5,000 and up with Njoku and stuff like that. So when it comes to the pay options, McBride, Laporta, I think that's too much. I still think that's too much for Kincaid, even though it is Miami, because that can easily be Josh Allen runs, James Cook runs. That's Dalton Kincaid, so Dawson Knox could get his. It's just too. It's just too much to figure out. I think anybody that's a Bills receiver in any format looks better at 6,000 and under. And being the fact that he's a tight end, he should be 55 and under. That's just me. I do like Kittle, I do like Andrews, but when it comes to the pay-ups, I do like the top 2, then Kittles and Andrews. Mid-level option, like I said, I think Barner is a little too expensive. That should be Theo Johnson. I like Theo Johnson. I like Jawan Johnson and Cade Otton. Cade Otton would be number 2 behind Theo Johnson for the mid price. And then for the pay downs, 54 and lower, there's a lot of options. Otton, Henry, Harold Fannin, Ertz, Njoku, Schultz. I think you should feel real comfortable paying down. You should feel real comfortable paying down at 5,000. If you want for a low-owned price, I guess you could try to punt with one of the... it is a good matchup. You could try and punt with one of the Carolina tight ends, but it's possibly not needed. That looks like a matchup that's going to be all about Carolina defense. One of the most popular combinations of running back and defense. Like this was hockey, and you combined a one-off or a one-off defenseman with a defense. It's going to be Rico Dowdle and the Carolina defense. And then speaking of defenses, let's get right into that. Like I said, we're comboing this show. I'm way ahead of schedule. Why am I ahead of schedule? Because I plan on taking the day tomorrow to research for the single game. I would like to play the single game of Raiders at Broncos tomorrow. So I'm getting the head start on that. So let's get right into it. Defenses. Seattle at home against Arizona, but with a better Brissett and besides a struggling Kyler Murray, yes, they're still worth the 5,000. Seattle defense is pretty solid. But like I said, this is not the Arizona that has played the first 6 weeks of the season. So are they worth the 5,000? Probably not. I will have no problem switching Seattle to the second or the third most highest defense, because I do think that Houston defense is going to cause Jacksonville some problems. So I actually like Houston, and then they're at home with the better matchup. So I actually like Houston as the number one defense compared to Seattle, but flip a coin. You can still flip a coin. New England at Tampa Bay, also a good option. You know I love Cleveland. I think Cleveland is actually my second favorite defense. Like I said, that defense has been playing hard all season. No more of when I used to recommend them at 34, 39. No, you're not going to get them at that. No more. You're not. Unless they start getting blown out. That Cleveland defense has been solid. 4,600 at the Jets. The Rams defense, once again, it's one of those I would like them more I would like them a whole lot more if Mac Jones gets one more start. If not, Brock Purdy, I will kind of knock them down a bit. Buffalo is fine where they're all lower half of the fours. Jacksonville is an option still at Houston because there's still an offense that's not great. And if they can't generate scores, and if Jacksonville can get to Davis Mills some way, then it is a mid-level defense that can get you between 6 and 11 points, possibly. Detroit at Washington is a different game now with Mariota, so they are an option even though they are on the road. And even the Jets are a somewhat option, but if they can't stop the run against Quinshon Judkins, and obviously with all the people that they gave up, then yeah. Jets are pretty much a fade for me at 4,000. But the reason why is that offense for Cleveland is not like a dynamic offense. They're not putting up 38, 28 to 35 to 38 points. That's automatically going to put the Jets at a -2 or -3. That's the thing. So they're an option, but I still say fade the Jets at that price. Obviously, this price was set a whole 2.5 days way before the trade deadline, before they gave up all their main defense stars, and especially somebody like Sauce Gardner, who has been playing better as of late. So at that price, they're a fade. If the Jets were the $35, $34, $3,300 defense, yes, they're still an option. They are still an option, but not at 4,000. Tampa Bay versus New England, they're okay at 3,900. Chicago, it is a depleted Giants offense with the injuries, but it's still a Chicago defense, somewhat at home. I do still kind of like them. They're an option at 38, but we could get to the paydowns, and there's a couple teams that I actually like. For the first time, I'm actually going to recommend the Ravens against even though they're on the road at Minnesota. Like I said, the last couple weeks, that defense has been playing well. Or you can say the last 2.5 games. 15, 4, and 5. There are a defense that's obviously still priced down because of how they played earlier, so the upside is there. Can they get to McCarthy? Can they make him, have some rookie mistakes and interceptions and stuff like that? Yes, they're viable. I think the chalk option, which is I don't mind jumping on the chalk because they're at home. This is the same thing like how I recommend, hey, not the best defense, but they're adequate defense enough to be viable. 3,600. Carolina at home against New Orleans. They have been playing well. And once again, silently, I was shocked as hell when I was like, holy hell, Carolina is 5-4 and ready for a playoff spot. 9 -2, 17, 0, and 3. This is the most expensive they've been all season. I don't think you should just sell out every defensive position like, hey, I'm going to pay down every time. New Orleans is still around. They still, like I said, they play better at home than on the road. But as you can see here, at the Rams, still gave you a 1. Home against Tampa Bay, a 6. At Chicago, a 3. They are viable. A -2 at Seattle early in the season. They haven't negative since then, since week 3. Now, obviously, they have its peaks and valleys when they're home and away. But once again, this is not the most dominant offense for 3,400. The Saints can still get you somewhere between a 3 and a 5. Hopefully they can get some sacks and pressure Cameron Jordan and company. Still have an front four that could get some pressure if he holds on to the ball too long. And if they somewhat contain Rico Dotto, like if they're running the ball, then the clock is running and shortens up the game. It could be a 28 kind of 27 kind of 13 loss. I'm not saying Rico Dotto's gonna get 4 touchdowns or anything like that, but they can stall him out, hold him to some field goals. There's viability there. So pay down options is just doesn't stop at Carolina. If people are thinking that way, I think I gave y'all some interesting cheap options, even though they're on the road, that can still hold their own and pay for their price. When it comes down this far, I don't really like nothing here. Not this view. I mean, I guess if you need it, once again, I guess it's the Giants on the road. It's still Caleb Williams that can make mistakes, so I guess. But when it comes to what I'm comfortable with, the pay down area stops for me at 34 with the Saints. So these are my favorite pay down options. Carolina number 1, Saints number 2, Baltimore number 3. When it comes to the mid options, I like Chicago, Detroit, Jacksonville. And when it comes to basically what you're paying up for, basically the first 4 defenses are all viable. But that is the end of the tight end and defense show. Definitely got this wrapped up a whole lot earlier than usual. It's Wednesday and all the shows are done. Might drop anything, but I think I went into, why I like this, who are the cheaper options, because people got traded in the wide receiver video. Now it flips this defense. Now the trades flip a couple defenses around. Some defenses overpriced, not worth what they are normally. I think I got through everything. So basically what you guys got to do is good luck if you're playing the sim game tomorrow, because I am, because the trades took Jacoby Myers off the board. And Friday, it's all about getting the news done. So we're all caught up. We're just waiting for some injury news, y'all. We're waiting to see if some people clear concussion. Like I said, we just went over to see if Komet gets off concussion, he's probably he's my favorite pay down. Puka's hurt with some rib injuries. We got to see that. Because if he moves, I'm telling you right now, the first thing I know, if Puka gets ruled out somehow because of ribs, and he just came off an injury, man, the Amon-Ra St. Brown ownership goes way up. He will not be concerned. So that will suck for me. Yeah, there's just a lot. Hope you all enjoyed all these videos, got them all at an accurate amount of time. And now we're just waiting 2 days for some injury news, and we go about our business, and good luck in week 10. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your boy, Grade A Fantasy, signing off.